In exercise 3, we're going to be looking at doing a process that we call calibrating the ocular ruler. And really the point behind this lab is if you look down here on this, you can see these relative sizes of different kinds of um, microorganisms and other particles that are out there are being measured. And you can see there's units associated with this. And when we think about this, even something as simple as measuring your height, we are going to use some form of a ruler or a tape measure that is going to have a standard for comparison that we'll be able to use to determine our height, say in inches or centimeters. And if we look at the metric system of measurement that's out there, this system is going to make it really simple to do things because you have your standard basic kind of thing that you're looking at, whether it's something like the amount of mass or the volume, or in our case, the length. That can be reported, but then you can also change the scale of your reporting that's over there. So if you look at something like a meter, well, you take 1,000 meters, there's your kilometer. But if you want to look at a tenth of a meter, that's a decimeter. We're more familiar sometimes with the centimeter over here, which is 1/100th. So if you're looking at a meter stick, there's going to be 100 lines on there, and that is your centimeter. You can also look, and there's going to be the really, really small lines, and there's going to be 1,000 of those on that meter stick, and that is your millimeter right there. And so when we look at this idea right here, we can take and actually convert from one system of measurement to another. So in this case, if you're looking at the ruler right there, we can take this little thing and measure out an inch. And we can look at this as, okay, on this side of the ruler it's an inch, but we can also convert or go to the other side and measure that same length over here in the metric system. And so we can determine that 1 inch over here is the same as 2.54 centimeters right there. But this does require two standards to be able to do your comparison right there. And so if we're looking at this idea here where we're looking at 1 inch or we're looking at that 2.5 centimeters, we could take something and measure and say, okay, how tall is a 6-foot person in centimeters? And for doing this, we're going to be converting those length measurements from the English standard system to this international standard system, the metric system right here. So knowing that there's 12 inches in 1 foot, we can take that 6-foot person over here and use this to convert the height from feet to inches. So there we can see in this first one, we've got 72 inches for that person. And if you notice, I'm using my units in all of these parts of this equation right here. If I say 6 feet per person and there's 12 inches in a foot, I can start to cancel out the feet over here and the feet on the bottom of these equations right here. And that's going to allow me to transfer my inches over here to this side with my product and then inches per person. So my units are going to actually be defined by these equations, and that's why we want to make sure that we do write this down. So now that we've got that, we know it's 72 inches per person. We can say, okay, how tall is that person? Well, we've got that conversion from our ruler up here. 1 inch is the same as saying 2.54 centimeters. Those are the same length right there. And so we can take and do this conversion from feet to centimeters right there and do this 6 feet per person. And there is your 12 inches per foot. And that's what gave us that number before. But now we're throwing in this extra little factor here to the conversion, this 2.54 inches per centimeter. And if we go through this process right here and look at our math at the end of this, there is 183 centimeters for that 6-foot person right there. And if you look at this process again with our units, you can see that the feet on top are canceling out the feet on the bottom. The inches on top are canceling out the inches on the bottom. And my units over here that get carried over into the product of this equation, there's the centimeters on the top and the person on the bottom. So again, this, I hope, is going to emphasize that idea about writing out all these units because it's going to help us in the end. if you had flipped this inches in the feet right here so that the feet were on the top, you would not end up with the right units because they wouldn't be able to cancel out. You would have double your feet on top and double your inches on the bottom there. All right, so when we look at this, think about the metric system. With the English system, it's a little bit more difficult to do these conversions. Think about how many inches are in a mile, okay? How many yards are in a mile? And those aren't something that is easy to do those transitions between. But in the metric system, they've actually designed this so that you can easily convert between one level to another level because everything is based on multiples of 10. So if you look at this, and again, that idea, there are 100 centimeters in a meter. Well, here there's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. So when you're looking at a ruler, if you put your pinky up there, that's sort of a size range that you can use. Your pinky is about a centimeter wide, and within that centimeter we can fit 10 equal space divisions, and there's your millimeter right there. And remember, if you're looking at a meter stick, you've got 1,000 of those right there. And what's kind of amazing, when we look between those smallest lines on that normal metric ruler out there, there's your centimeter from 10 to 11. You've got your millimeters right here, those small lines. Well, in between those small lines, you can fit 1,000 more lines, and now you're down to the micrometer scale. And so if you think about it, we could actually fit 1,000 bacteria cells between the smallest lines that you're going to find on a meter stick. That gives you an idea about the size of what we're talking about, and think about what we can do with our magnification in the lab. We can magnify things at best 1,000 times. So to put that in perspective, it goes, and now the image that you're magnifying there is going to be about a millimeter wide. So I hope this puts things in perspective there, and think about that idea again there. We could take that 6-foot person where we converted it to centimeters, and now we could do that conversion and take that length that we've measured out and convert it from centimeters to millimeters in our metric system. So again, write out your numbers with 183 centimeters per person that we got before, and we're just going to take this nice, quick, easy little 10-fold change right there. There's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Notice your units on the top and the bottom right there. Your centimeters are going to cancel out, and that's going to give you your millimeters over here on this side. So if you're 6 feet tall, you're 183 centimeters tall, you're also 1,830 millimeters tall. So I wanted to do this sort of introduction to get people used to thinking about how we can do these number conversions, and to get people familiar with this, because we're going to start using this and looking at a ruler that is built into our microscopes to be able to start measuring the length of our specimens at the microscopic level.